Hi there, and welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your evening with me this evening. Today, we're going to be talking about helping your free video chat, that first lesson, however you kind of work, become regular tutoring. So we know that kind of first interaction with a student and with parents especially can sometimes be a real challenge to make that become regular tutoring. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to talk about this for roughly about 30 minutes. I'm going to give some ideas, and then we're going to have a Q&A at the end where you can ask questions. The chat and the Q&A function are both open on Zoom. So you can use the Q&A function to put any questions in. I can kind of those as they come, or you can put any thoughts, discussion points in the chat. If there's anything particularly resonates, or if you've got a question, or you can chat directly with me if you want to put a question up, and I'll kind of keep going back to those intermittently. Thank you, everyone who has joined live this evening. If you're watching this as a recording, I still suggest you write down those questions. It's a really good way to kind of cognitively engage with what we are doing. So just before we kind of kick off, let's really quickly talk about who I am. So my name is Arthur Moore. I am a full-time online maths tutor and have been since 2021. Before then, I was a secondary maths teacher, teaching in schools across the UK as well as internationally. I run two outfits. I've got my tutoring, which is under the name of More Edu, and my CPD platform for tutors, which is called Navigated Tutor. In 2024, I won the National Tutor of the Year at the National Tutoring Awards via the Tutors Association, and my CPD platform for tutors, Navigated Tutor, has been shortlisted for a couple of years back to back, as well as for Educational Resource of the Year for tuition in 2025. So that's who I am. So I have very much gone all these kind of points we're talking today. There's nothing I'm going to talk about today that I haven't kind of personally experienced or kind of had those conversations. I have had conversations today with potential parents about trying to get their organize some tuition for their students. So these are things I think about all the time. I've got a couple more consultations, as I call them, later on in the week. So the aims for this session are I want to focus on those first five and the last 5 minutes of that introduction chat, whether that be through your free lesson meet or just the first lesson you're having when we're looking at converting that single moment into regular tuition. We're going to discuss ways we can feel more confident about answering questions, and we're going to talk about what I would call awkward questions in even more detail. And also, I want to understand why it's important to do a follow-up to this and how we can go about that. So I'm going to structure today's session as if I would the conversation I'm having. So we'll talk about the introduction, we'll talk about the meat in this the chat, and then we'll talk about what we can do towards the end to kind of really try and convert that to regular tuition. As I said, I completely understand that this can be a really kind of awkward and challenging time for us, especially for those who have worked in education for a number of years or those who are completely new to it. It's not really something that we have a huge amount of experience of as educators. Because we're very kind of student focused. So it's about getting kind of that dynamic right. As I said, if you've got any questions, please just put them in the chat and I'll kind of come back to them throughout. So introducing yourself. I think this is so important. Remember, this is the first moment you are interacting with the parent and potentially the child, or potentially both in different situations. So how you introduce yourself is really, really crucial for kind of building that relationship going forward. So I think about this in three ways in terms of the introduction. I think about who am I? They're asking, who are you? And I really want to get that very clearly across to the parent. When I say parent, I could mean the guardian or the adult responsible. Why? Why can I support their child? That's the question the adult is thinking. Why are you that person to support my child? And also, how are you actually going to do this? And they're the three things that I really want to convey in that introduction. I want to be really proactive. I want to answer those questions before they have even been asked. So I just wanted to take a little moment to just reflect upon those three questions. Who are you? How can you support this child? And how we do it. I know we're not talking about a specific student at this moment, but I just wanted to take a moment to think about those three key things and how you would cover them. So, who is a really crucial thing. I'm not just talking about introducing kind of your name here. This is about who you are as an educator. So, for example, in my situation, when I'm talking about that who, I always, as I did earlier, very um, very quickly bring up that I have got experience as a tutor and I've got experience as a teacher. Now, we all come from different backgrounds into tuition, so that's absolutely fine. I'm telling the parent or the adult kind of my story. So, straight I'm answering that question. And that leads into kind of the why, what I've already mentioned in the who about my experience. So I've already said within that first kind of couple of sentences that I've been tutoring for 5 years. And from like with my background, like I've got a teaching background and also like I've been recognized by winning some awards. So I'm bringing those in very early on to demonstrate to the adult that I am someone who is appropriate straight away to be even having this conversation, let kind of longer term. Now, how is about showing kind of your experience in this. So, what the parent is really looking for is someone that is experienced or has the experience to help their child. So, they're looking for you to convey that you are really well placed. And that's something to just really consider as you kind of go through. So when I'm thinking about introducing myself, for me, there's three things I always want the parent to know about me. So before I share my three, and I shared this in the initial video, if you saw it, that was shared via Tutorful, I just want you to think for a moment. What do you want the parent to know about you? If you've got pen and paper, please do just note down three things that you want the parent or the adult in this conversation to know about you from that introduction. So just want you to take a moment to just think about that and really do kind of jot it down. Again, if anyone who's watching live wants to put anything in the chat function or ask a question, please do. So for me, when I'm first talking to a parent, I want them to leave with three really clear ideas. I want them to know that I am prepared. I want them to know, even from our introduction, that they are going to get the sense that I'm a prepared educator. Because if I'm preparing for this first conversation, I'm going to put the same hard work into paying for all their child sessions going forward. So I always want to show I'm prepared. I'm going to talk about how I do this in a moment. I want them to feel confidence that I know how to add value. So I want them to think about Arthur, that this guy is confident that he is going to able to add value to this tutoring. So he's someone that can help here. And I also want them to know that I'm an expert in my subject area. So they're not just picking me for maths tuition because I was available or because I was the first person on the top of a sheet or whatever, but I actually really know what I'm talking about. And there's ways we can do that without saying I'm an expert in my subject area. We all know our subjects really well. We're all passionate educators. There's sometimes way we can convey that. So how do I go about doing this? So being prepared, we can talk about the simple things. We can talk about making sure you are always on time for that first session. Always on time. You should be in that meeting room ready to go at the allotted time. Even if you're kind of a minute or two late, what kind of sense is that sending to the parent? Be ready to use their names. If you've had their names beforehand, make sure that you're ready to use their names. That shows the parent, the adult in the conversation or the child, that you have taken some time to look over the information beforehand. If there's a name that you're not quite sure how to pronounce, for example, you've gone away and you've actually researched maybe a little bit about how to pronounce it. Little details like that can make a real difference. So straight away, parents go, this person has actually thought about this meeting before this meeting has even happened. Yeah. Do you know the child's name? Can you use that straight away? Little details to be prepared. How do I show confidence in my own value? Well, I'm very open to talk about my experience. So I bring that up and show, look, do you know what? With my 5 years as a tutor experience, I'm confident that I can bring value to your child. And I will talk about this like, so what year is your child in? If they mention year 8, they go, oh, okay. So what have you been working on at the moment? They might say something like nth term in my subject area of maths. And straight away, I can kind of talk about that from a year 8 perspective. So I'm showing that I am already know that I can bring my experience to that conversation. We want someone who's really good at what they do. And if we want someone who's really what we're going to do, we have to believe that we are really good in what we do to start with. So you need to go in with that confidence that you can bring value to this. And finally, in these kind of first 3 things, is to demonstrate my knowledge of the subject. So I will look for any opportunity in that first bit of dialogue to show that I really know what I'm talking about. So, for example, if I'm talking to a year 11 student, I always automatically ask, what exam board are you sitting? What exam board are you sitting? Now, this can go 2 ways. The student either doesn't know what exam board they're sitting, which is fine, but by asking the question, I'm showing to the adult that I'm aware that there's difference in exam boards. So I'm not just saying, oh, you do English at year 11. What exam board do you sit? For maths, I might ask, what level are you sitting? Are you sitting the foundation of a higher level? Again, if the student doesn't know, that's absolutely fine. But if they do know, I can come on the back of that. So, for example, student says, oh, I'm sitting high level IGCSE mathematics. Go, oh, that's absolutely brilliant. So you've got 2 papers, both calculator papers. Straight away, I'm showing to everyone in the room that I really know what I am talking about. And it's just the little things there. I can even ask in these kind of sessions, and I've done this many times. Oh, so when you've been doing some oh, what type of calculator do you have? And they go, oh, I don't know, a Casio. Oh, excellent. Do you know what kind of Casio? And again, that's just showing that I'm really into kind of my subject and I really know this stuff. So if you're an English teacher, you might talk about what text they're studying at the moment or what text they're going to be studying and bring up the art. Do you know what? I've taught that for the last couple of years. I've actually been working with a student with it. So I'm demonstrating I know my subject knowledge. Even bring in a little bit about that subject. So in science, oh, so what are you studying at the moment? Oh, okay. Have you got onto this yet? Just by doing little drip feeds of that, I'm highlighting to everyone involved that this person knows their subject. And that's a real worry for a lot of parents. So, the 3 things that I've done there in my introduction, I've shown that I'm prepared by using names, being on time. I've shown confidence in my value by engaging in these conversations. And I've shown my subject knowledge by asking questions about the subject. And it doesn't matter if you're teaching primary school, exactly the same works here. Oh, so what are you doing at the moment in history? Oh, excellent. And I come in with a little bit of knowledge there to kind of help. Okay, so I'm going to move on next to awkward questions. So this is something that is fed back to me a lot by tutors I work with. It's like, I really don't like answering the awkward questions. So I just want you to take a moment to think about any awkward questions you've had in kind of that introduction meeting. If anyone wants to put any of these as examples in the chat or the Q&A, please do. I've got a couple of examples of just awkward questions. I'm not talking about weird questions or inappropriate questions, awkward questions that make you straight away go, I'm not really comfortable answering this. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. So just take a moment to think about any of those questions that kind of make you feel a bit awkward. And if anyone wants to share those in the discussion, that'd be awesome. Okay, so there's a couple being sent to me of ones that very much ones that have gone. Where do you work is all, yeah, I understand what you're saying there. Someone's just put a couple in. So here's a couple of my examples. Now I'll come on to a couple of the ones you've got. So these are the questions that I don't really like asking. What grade can you get them? Especially when I'm working with students who are at the high level of their secondary or into GCSE and A level. What grade can you get them? I find that a really awkward question. Now, this is difficult for me because I don't know the student. I haven't done any real work with them. So it's very hard for me to make any kind, it was impossible for me to make any kind of assessment. The probably only information I have to go off is the information that the child and their parents or adults are given to me in the session about predicted and target grades. So I tend to stay away from giving specific answers to what grade can you get them. So I would answer something like, do you know what? I'm really confident if we work together over the course of this year towards those, that we can definitely make a really big improvement. And your child will go into those exams completely confident that they're going to give the best representation of themselves. I don't really want to comment on grades right now because I haven't worked with your child enough. Again, I'm showing that kind of professionalism by saying, I'm not just going to say, I'm going to get them a grade 9. That's not fair on anyone. But it's also like showing that I don't really understand my subject. If a student's on a foundation paper and I'm saying I can get them a grade 6, well, that doesn't work. That's demonstrating my lack of knowledge. So be confident to kind of say, like, do you know what? I'm not going to answer that question right now because I haven't worked with a student. I'm more than happy to kind of have those discussions as we progress through the year. I'm seeing a couple of questions coming in, which is really useful. I will come on to those. Thank you for putting them up there. How do you get them to like you? This is a question I've been asked by parents a few times. Like, how do you get the student to like you? I find it's a really awkward question because my job as the tutor is not to get the student to like me. That's not really what this dynamic is about. Like, we've got a student, we've got a teacher. Like, ultimately, the aim here is to learn. Yes, that includes building confidence and enjoying our subject time together. But it's not really about like. So when I get asked this question, how do you get them to like you? I will say, like, I'm a really big believer in really good, high quality teaching. I take real pride in the quality of my teaching. And what I find with working with students for the amount of years that I have is that dynamic of me being a really good teacher, we build that relationship between a student and a teacher where we're completely on board together and moving forward together. I'm not talking about I'm talking about that relationship between teachers. It's a great line that I like from someone called Darren Leslie, who says, like, teaching well is relationship building. So I would use something like that. I'd say, do you know what? I develop a working relationship with my students by being really good and really passionate about what I do. And I don't hide away from that. I'm going to answer a couple of the questions. So someone said one of the awkward questions is like, where do you work? This is something I've been asked quite a bit and I don't want to share that. I just say, where do you work? All my work is online. So I'm based in a couple of different areas. I'm more than happy to kind of give my country where I'm working, or maybe even the area of that country. So I'm in Essex at the moment. But don't feel under pressure to kind of, you have to share that with them. And it's like, if you're working online, like, just say, where do you work? If in terms of like, where do you work in terms of a school, you could say, like, I'm not comfortable saying in which school I work in the moment. I'm not able to do that, but this is how I work online, or I'm working in a secondary school at the moment. Someone's asked a question. I've seen that you've mainly taught in junior school science. So this is a really good question. I've seen that you've mainly taught junior school science. What do you know about GCSE? So this is kind of a bit of a challenge on, are you the right person to tutor my child? So the way I would come about that with that question is I would demonstrate my knowledge of the GCSE. So if I've got experience of it, I'm going to say that straight up, I have taught this. If I haven't actually taught the GCSE syllabus, I could talk about the training that I've done to get to that. Or if I'm not even working in school at the moment, I could say, well, when I was sitting this, or in my work as a work in universities or anything like this. So I'm going to find my experience that relates to that. So if someone talked to me, the question I would get here would be like, you've worked in secondary schools. Like, how do you know how to work with my child in primary school? And the way I go about it is, although I haven't taught primary school, I've done a lot of work with year sevens who are working at a level that you would kind of relate to primary school. So I've actually got a lot of experience of working with students at a primary level maths. So that's one way you could come about this question is you've mainly taught junior school. I've taught some students who are absolutely really challenging high level students who have gone on to get really good grades. So I'm really confident about working with your student at secondary school. So it's about kind of finding a way. I wouldn't lie because then we're kind of going back to that kind of professionalism and being prepared. But I'm going to be confident in my own ability to kind of answer that question. There's another one that someone has just answered of just kind of like literally, what is your experience? This goes back to kind of being prepared that we're ready to answer that question. So my experience is I've worked in schools for a number of years and here are the schools I've worked in. What's your track record is sometimes of getting the grades? Well, I don't think we need to go into specifics. If you've got a really good track record and you're happy to talk about that, absolutely talk about that. If this is your first ever student, talk about other students you've worked with. Maybe it's family members, maybe it's your own child, maybe it's the school that you've done some support work in. Maybe you've done some tutoring, but not kind of formally yet. You've tutored kind of your friends' kids and stuff like that. So talk about your experiences. And what we find is that kind of forms kind of the bulk of our session, that introduction where we're trying to proactively answer those questions and then answering these awkward questions. And ending the call. So we're kind of moving towards the end of the session now. One thing we really need to be conscious of when we're ending the call is we are trying to be the proactive one here. We want a commitment to a session. I know there's a bunch of absolutely brilliant educators on here, and we're really confident normally that if we can get that first session, that first 1 or 2 sessions with a student, that we can convert that to regular tuition. So sometimes it's about getting that free conversation to be that first lesson, to be that second lesson, and that becomes regular tuition. So when we're talking about ending the call, it's all about trying to get something booked in without coming across as kind of hard selling and pushy, which is what we really do not want to do. So this is about semantics and using certain type of phrases and questions. So for example, should we get a session in the diary just so it's booked in? Like we can always like change it later on, but I really, really want to work with you, and it'd be really annoying for us to like that session to get booked up by someone else. I always like kind of like the phrase, just get it booked in, like get it in the diary, get it booked in so we're all aware of where that's at. But just having that little phrase rather than when you're going to book in a session, when you're going to book in a session, shall we get one in the diary just so it's booked in? One's a lot more kind of proactive from me, but in no way kind of aggressive and kind of a selly way. Another phrase, I'd recommend booking in a couple of sessions and then we can chat about a plan going forward. I always talk about with these sessions, I never talk about just getting one session booked in. I always talk about let's get a couple booked in. That's because I feel really passionate that it's really hard in that first session to kind of cover everything. And it takes 2 or 3 sessions to kind of start to build a relationship. But also it's showing the parent, I'm already kind of thinking long term. I'm already kind of planning those sessions. And this is kind of like a little like, there's no real commitment here. Let's just book in 1 or 2 sessions and then we can have a further chat about a plan going forward. And by the time you've got to those couple of sessions, you've been so awesome in those sessions that they're going to want to book those further sessions. The other one I use, especially when I'm working with older students where the student and the parent have been engaged in this conversation, is something along the lines of, I'm sure you two will want to have a chat with each other. Why don't we just provisionally put something in and then you can let me know whether you want it or not. So we're just getting something booked in. You can direct them to the booking scheduler that you use with this platform. But again, this is saying I still respect that you want to go away and have a think about this. But before we do that, should we just get something booked in so we can come back to it if we need it? What we don't want to say is come back to me next week and we'll get something booked in. We want to get something booked in now, It shows that we're prepared and we're kind of really confident that we can bring some value to this. But also it's indicating that like I do have other students and other parents who are going to talk to me. So let's get something booked in just so it's not booked up. And this is where after the call becomes really important. I try and contact the parent, whether it's via an email or the messaging platform on the site that we're using. I try and drop a message within an hour. And there's two ways I do that within the hour, which I appreciate is really difficult. Like 2-3 hours is absolutely fine. I often will draft up that follow-up email beforehand because most of it's going to be very generic. It was fantastic to talk today. It'd be really great to get a session booked in. I'm really looking forward to it. And then what I do is after the session, I go back to my kind of pre-written up email and I drop in the name so they know it's a personalized email. It's just not a generic email. I maybe drop something we spoke about the session. So it was really great to talk about the session. Like, I know your son was talking about the trouble he's having with Pythagoras at the moment. I've already got some great ideas of how to teach it. It's one of my favorite subjects to teach. So I'm personalizing the email, but then I'm also going to put some call to actions in those messages. So like if I haven't managed to get them to commit to a time and a thing, like again, it'd be why don't we get a session booked in and then we can kind of talk about that after the next session. Why don't we get a session booked in and we can spend the last 5 minutes of that session having another chat? Again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get that first session booked in so my awesomeness as a tutor can kind of come in. But I really try and drop a message. If you're going to do it 2-3 days later, you just absolutely lose that momentum. I'm trying to keep that momentum. And also, don't forget, I've mentioned it, but don't forget to personalize it. Completely generic email. Like, let's come back and talk about it each time. They can be really formal, informal. So an informal way of doing this is just, it was great to chat. Just to confirm, we spoke about getting a session in next Monday at 6 o'clock. Just a reminder to book that in the booking scheduler so it's in everyone's diary. Here's a link. Just to confirm is a really nice way of saying what we've just talked about. I also would use as discussed. So it was great to chat. As discussed, I'll see you next Monday at 7 o'clock. Don't forget to book it in or however you choose to do that. So you can either kind of judge it from the call, whether you want it to be quite formal or informal. You're going to have to kind of judge that based on your conversation with the adult. And this, again, what we're doing there with that email afterwards is we're showing we're prepared. We're showing that we're confident that we are the right tutor here. And we're showing we're an expert in our subject area by dropping in those little bits of information. It'd be great to have that first lesson. I know they're studying Macbeth at the moment. You'll probably be great to do a reflection upon what the witches mean in that. Or we could do a specific subject upon what you're doing in science at the moment. I drop that language in straight away. And my key to doing all this is you've got to plan and practice this. So those awkward questions we talked about, at the someone just put in some questions. So for example, someone was saying we feel awkward about that question. It's like, you mainly talk this. How do I know you can talk this? Well, I'm going to plan and practice my answer to that. I'm actually going to sit down and record myself doing it. A great way to doing it. Record yourself answering these questions. Set up your camera, record yourself doing it, watch it back, and you'll notice you will get better at it. Is it awkward to film yourself and watch it back? Absolutely. But you get so much better at it. So plan and practice your responses. Be ready for the awkward stuff. Sometimes with awkward stuff, awkward questions that we don't feel comfortable, because we don't feel comfortable answering them, we don't practice them. We just say, oh, I hope it doesn't come up. And then when it does come up, we're even more annoyed and even more awkward because we were trying to avoid that. So actually be proactive. A great question to ask yourself is, what do I hope the parent doesn't ask me? What do I hope the parent doesn't ask me? And that is the best area for you to get ready in. That's a really, really fantastic area for you to get ready in. So, for example, I am not the biggest fan of having deep conversations about stats at A-level. It is not the area I'm most confident of teaching at A-level maths. It's the weakest of my areas. I'm well aware of that. So I put a lot of effort into kind of reading on the curriculum, reading the examiner's reports from last year. So when a parent asks me like, oh, they're restructuring stats, and I can go, right, actually, well, I was reading the examiner notes the other day, and we know that the real area for development across the board is in kind of normal distribution. So that's something I really bring into my tutoring when we're focused on the stats. I feel awkward about talking about it, so it's something I should plan and practice. And finally, you need to acknowledge that you are the value here. You are the expert in this tutor-student dynamic. That's the dynamic here. We've got a student, we've got a tutor. You're trying to impart teaching for them to learn stuff. And you're the value here. You're the one that can bring value. So you need to back yourself that you are the best person for this student. And you need to be confident with that. And this is not about being arrogant and egotistical. This is about going, do you know what? I'm really good at what I do, and I want to convey that so I can have an impact on this student. And I'm confident I can have that impact. So you are the value, and absolutely back yourself here. If there's any questions, please put them into the chat. So I built some time at the end for a question and answer session here. Next Wednesday, 8 p.m, we're going to have another quick little workshop on these, where we're actually going to go over some of the stuff we've done in this session, and we're going to practice those. So next Wednesday, if you want to come along to that one, we're going to take some of these ideas and we are actually going to do those in real time with each other. We're going to do some breakout rooms. I'm going to really focus on answering those awkward questions. So if anyone's got any questions or anything, please put them in the chat or in the question and answer session. Or if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask them, that's absolutely fine with me. I'll just wait with a couple of people typing.
So could I mean, do you want to answer the questions on text first, or can I just ask?
Go for it, Ryan.
On the app like Tutorful, it says you need to write stuff about you, like write a short summary about yourself that will make you stand out.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on that front? Because I don't know how I'd be able to write anything that wouldn't sound either cliche or well, yeah, really just that. Like I can't really think of anything to write that doesn't sound cliche. So do you have tips on that front?
So I think the way I would go about this is a really good question, Brian, and it's something we all struggle with at different points. Is I would be thinking about, what do I want to present to potential clients? So
Mm,
these are my things. These were me. I want to be prepared. I want to know that I'm confident in what I do, and I want to know I'm an expert. So I mention those things.
mm,
So for me, I show that I'm an expert by talking about my experience. I also do work as an examiner, so I bring that in. I'm talking about, but I'm confident by talking about kind of my track record that I've been doing this for a while. And I also show by having a good profile that I thought about that I am prepared. There's loads
mm.
of really cool stuff you can do on kind of chat GTP, but I would actually, rather than focusing on writing the bio, take a step back and say, if I had a perfect meeting with a parent, with an adult, what would they leave thinking about me?
Right,
And then get that written down.
right, right.
So you're, rather than thinking about what you want to convey, you're thinking about what you want them to read from you. And I think that's a really nice way to go about this. Think about what you want people to know about you rather than what you want to tell them about yourself.
I see. Okay, that's perfect, man. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Another thing, Ryan, would be go and look at other people's who are really good and think about how that works for you. Someone's just asked, will next Wednesday be recording? Absolutely, yes, it will. Sorry, just someone's reading a question. Okay, so I absolutely feel so. Someone's just put a question about of just essentially kind of having a bit of imposter syndrome in this tutoring world, have gone in a bit kind of low with their pricing or kind of their value of themselves, and it kind of leans to burnout. Been there, absolutely been there. 2021 was my burnout year. I did exactly the same. So, what we need to think about is, rather than what do we value ourselves, we need to see it from a different perspective of the value we are bringing. And what I mean by this is the the adult, is coming to you because you are able to offer something that they cannot find elsewhere, whether that's in the school or in the local community hub or in the local Facebook groups, wherever. They've come to you because there's something you can do. Especially this person said, like, I'm actually a really good teacher and tutor. So that is fantastic. Like, you're really good at what you do. So see it from another perspective. The way I always think about this is if a plumber came to my house, or if before I'm choosing my plumber, I'm going through the ads. Do I just go to the cheapest plumber? The person that's not got as much experience, who's not really got a very good bio, but he's really cheap or she is really cheap. No, I go for the person that is the right fit for me and my needs at this time. I may not go for the most expensive, especially with plumbers, but I'm going to not just differentiate on price. And then you also need to look at this from a perspective, like having transitioned from teaching to tutoring myself, like you need to find something that works for you. So pricing is a really important point for you all to consider. And you've got to find something that works for you. And I would ask myself, like, am I happy tutoring at this rate for a prolonged period of time? If the answer is yes, then there's loads of benefits to that. But if the answer is no, then why are you going to do it? It's a really hard question to ask yourself. Value is really tricky, but think about the value of that they are coming to you. You are not going to them. You're not knocking on doors saying, hire me as a tutor. People are coming to you and saying, well, actually, we'd really like you to tutor our child. And that slight mindset is how you start thinking about value. I guarantee you are underpricing yourself because I see it in tutors all the time. All the time. Almost every single tutor I work with initially is someone who could put their value up. It's a really thank you for sharing because that's a really important thing. Someone's asked me about my presentation setup. I'll talk about that at the end if that's all right. But I'm absolutely happy to chat about that. Has anyone got any more questions? So if not, next Wednesday, we're going to do a bit of a workshop on this. So a little bit of homework. I want you to go away and plan and practice for the awkward stuff that you don't want to talk about. And I want to plan and practice your introduction. That introduction should take no more than kind of 90 seconds. You heard my introduction at the start. I have said that many, many times. I'm really confident with doing it now. But there was a point where I literally practiced it in front of a screen. Literally practiced it. And when I update it at the end of each year, where I have to change all the stuff that I've done this year, I go for it again. Plan and practice like you would with your teaching. If you're not confident teaching something, you go away and plan and practice it. So I want everyone to go away and plan and practice their introductions and practice their answer to some awkward questions and really think about that you are the value and it's time to back yourself. But that'll be next Wednesday on the 17th, 8 p.m. I really appreciate everyone spending some time this evening. If anyone does have any questions, I'm going to hang around and answer those. But for everyone watching as a recording, thank you so much for watching as a recording. Thank you for everyone for leaving the kind messages. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop recording there. But if you have any questions, just answer me. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Arthur Moore Tutor, and you will find me almost straight away. That's the best place to answer any questions kind of about me that you might have. But have an awesome evening.